new patch. I do believe that this one will not be as significant as the previous ones have been since MSI came out as well. I do believe, however, that almost everyone will be turning this off. We don't really care about previews, especially the players that already know the game. Maybe for newcomers, but the client is not really performing too well nowadays in implementing this and applying more weight into the client. I'm not sure if I truly like that, but yeah, it's mostly for new players, I would say, because the other players and the normal player base will just disable this function. Systems. Baron will no longer regen per 5 seconds, and base health will now have her more. So basically, what they want to do is, if the Baron has per se 1.195 HP, instead of smiting in a threshold where the Baron can have plus 15 HP, in this case 1.210, they want to give a flat value and not enable it to regen HP, so that those kind of incidents don't happen when you smite when it's regenerating HP. So that's what they want to do. Champions, Alistar. I mean, him and Braum are getting absolutely slaughtered. Braum even more because Braum lost 12 armor in total, um, including this patch, and Alistar has been one of the prior picks of the meta in competitive. They reduce a lot of armor. Of course, Alistar will still appear in some scenarios and when he's good to appear, but it will be a lot squishier when it comes to these bot lane matchups in early game. Bel'Veth, basically what they want to do is to provide more mid-late game insurance for Bel'Veth, while sacrificing a bit of her early game, which is a change I do actually respect, because if Bel'Veth is off early game, she doesn't usually scale too well. So good thing from Riot to remove some of the early game prowess and shift it a bit into the scaling side. Braum, as we were talking about, is losing 7 more armor. He lost 5 in the previous patch as well. So it will be a lot more squishy in comparison. He had 47 armor. Um, of course, it will still be good in scenarios where he should be good, but he cannot blind pick Braum anymore. A lot of players were blind picking Braum, and a lot of teams were also doing it as well. And I do believe that in some scenarios, even though it was unjustified because of this value, the 47 value, it was actually forgiven. So this won't be the case. It will be a lot squishier, a lot more vulnerable. So Braum blind pick will not be as good as it was before. Corki. So they want to tune down a bit of the early game and provide more scaling. Basically, his Q will lose 20 damage once you max it until level 9, and then you will have more bonus AD, but you will have less early game pressure by getting more scaling value when it comes to rocket damage, and also the damage eventually will end up being the same, but initially less pressure from the Q damage, which yeah, might shift a bit of Corki's prowess both in bot lane and also mid lane. Mainly bot lane, I would say. Illaoi, passive. Basically, oh, okay, I remember this change. So basically, they're giving more damage when it comes to the passive, and her E will be a lot quicker. So I'm not sure if the Illaoi OTPs are going to like this change because the vessel duration is only 3 seconds. And even though it attacks sooner, I'm not sure if the Illaoi OTPs like this change because it's a lot easier to, play around that timer. So not sure if I really like the Illaoi change, and I don't think the OTPs like it as well. Irelia, I mean, because the Bork changes and the buffs, Irelia was one of the biggest winners of the patch, mainly Rell King, so they want to shift her health region for laning phase. Initially, it might do something. Does this kill Irelia though? Not at all. I mean, if she truly has some sustained sort of issue, she can just shift into Vampiric Scepter and she will be fine, so I don't think that this will be an issue at all. She will still be in a good spot when she's supposed to be picked. Kled, basically they want to give more resistances when is in dismount form. If you're mounted, no changes at all, but you won't be as squishy when you're dismounted, so you're getting more resistances. Um, as a compensation for the champion, and he has been receiving some changes recently, so we might start to see some more Kled pop up if players really want to learn it, even in competitive. It's really good into champions like Aatrox as well. Aatrox is present in the meta. It doesn't usually appear as a blind pick, but there are some scenarios where Kled could actually be useful in the future. Master E, basically, they want to also tune him down because of the Bork build, the Bork buff. Master E is only good into compositions where there's not much CC to be reliable, and yeah, what they want to do is shift a bit of the early game power and give it more into the later stages. Monster damage will also be a lot affected in early games, so its clear speed will be decreased, not only because you lose flat damage, but also because of this damage loss. And even though we get scaling value, I mean, you have to go Lethality Master E or Crit Build to make this sort of a buff later on. Otherwise, it's just overall going to be a nerf for Master E. They're trying to push into crit slash lethality mastery for a while already, but I do believe that the build orientation will still remain the same. You can go for lethality against squishy comps, but yeah, I mean mastery is only playable versus no CC as well. Nilah, more early game power. She's being buffed early by getting to more AD, but the problem is she is losing a lot of attack speed because she's losing 0.75%. And yeah, it's got a big value when it comes to her DPS, even though it's good for early game, she gets more AD initially. Pantheon, of course, is just permabanned in competitive usually. People are starting to get a bit annoyed by it, so finally we are seeing some Pantheon changes. Usually when monster damage is affected, some champions usually disappear. Will Pantheon disappear? I don't think so, but I do believe that he won't be as permaban as he is currently. Quinn. Q damage is being heavily increased in early game, and it will be shifted into bonus AD as a scaling value. So instead of being total AD, they want to make it bonus AD. So if you max this second, it's a nerf. If you max this first, into matchups where you can utilize the Q damage early game, it's really a huge buff. It's a huge buff because it goes from 20 into 65, even though it's bonus AD. And if you max this until level 9 into a matchup where you can really snowball, it's good, it's great. If you play into a tank where you cannot really punish the tank and you still have to go with W max, well, just go with W, you know? Just go with the W. But if you can snowball the early game laning phase, look for a Q max because these changes are definitely good for it. Into squishier matchups, for example. Rek'Sai. Base armor going down, also armor growth. Knock up lockout is going to be scaling now. And they're giving the true damage back into Bel'Veth, as we can see from these changes. So I'm really a big fan of Rek'Sai getting true damage changes. I do believe that if she will come back in the meta. Right now she's in a terrible state, so providing the true damage back into Rek'Sai is definitely a change that I do sympathize for the champion to come back in the recent future. Rell, I mean, I do think this is placebo. Alistar and Braum are getting Omega hit with minus 12 armor on Braum in 2 patches. Alistar with minus 7 armor. But Rell is only losing shields. I mean, max HP is still there. She loses 5 shields in the early levels, and then it drops into minus 25. If you ask me, it's just placebo. But this gives a lot more value for Nautilus. This gives a lot more value for Leona as well. Rakan, those champions that are being untouched. The fact that their counterparts and the popular options are being nerfed, it emphasizes Nautilus, Leona, and Rakan even more for the future patch. And then, yeah, we just have ARAM changes, so let's do a really quick TLDR of the patch. And yeah, Alistar is Omega nerfed. He will still be picked when he's supposed to be picked, but the other supports will get more proud because of what we just talked about alongside with Braum. Bel'Veth, early game nerf, late game, mid to late game, she's getting a buff to become more reliable. Braum also nerfed. It won't be blind pickable as he was nowadays, so be aware of Braum blind pick. You only want to pick this when it's really a good angle because he lost 12 armor in 2 patches. Corki, early game nerf because of his Q damage, but overall a scaling buff when it comes to the rest. But it's just to make sure that Corki is not as lane dominant as he is nowadays. Illaoi, I'm not sure about this change. I'm not sure if the Illaoi OTPs will truly enjoy this shift because, yeah, the vessel duration is dramatically being decreased, and yeah, I'm not sure if they will like this one. Irelia, I do believe that she will be fine because you can shift into Vampiric Scepter regardless. You can have some sustained value, and even though she might lose some win rate because the Borg changes and Naut is being nerfed, I do believe that the Borg changes are completely worth, and it's still a lot more valuable in comparison to this one. Kled, basically this mount will have more resistances, and keep in mind Kled has been receiving back-to-back buffs, so we might see Kled as a reactive pick in the future meta, both in competitive and also solo queue. Mastery, big early game nerfs for Mastery, I would say, because of the Borg buffs for melee champs, and even though he's getting total AD buffs in percentage, I doubt that players will want to shift into crit or lethality build. Yes, you can look for lethality build if you're into a squishy non-CC comp. But I do believe this is overall a nerf to the champion. Nilah, early game buff because of the 2 base AD, but overall a late game nerf because she loses a lot of DPS with the attack speed going down. Pantheon, overall priority will be down because of monster damage. Quinn, Q2 is a nerf because it's bonus AD instead of total AD as before, but if you max this first into matchups, you can really snowball through in laning phase. This is great for Quinn Qmax in comparison to this patch. Rek'Sai, true damage is coming back, so she will be potentially coming back into the meta slowly but surely, and Rell, this is really placebo change, and as I said, Nautilus, Leona, and Rakan will like these changes even more. Rell is not being as hit as Alistar and Braum. Alistar and Braum are omega hits, but they will still be good in certain scenarios, but yeah, overall the meta is not changing too much, and remember to disable this if you don't want your client to fucking die out of nowhere. So yeah, that was it for the patch. Thank you for listening once again, and I'll see you guys for the 25-16. I'll see you next time. See ya.